Welcome, everyone, to the 2026 Patterson Land-Grant Lecture. My name is Jason Reese. I'm Vice Provost for Engaged Scholarship and Community Engagement here at Ohio State. Before we get started with our program today, we wanted to share two videos from Ohio State's For Ohioans series, which highlight amazing community engagement taking place across the state. So please enjoy.
I'll never forget the date, March the 13th, 2020. That was the day I was diagnosed with rectal cancer, colorectal cancer. My name's Joyce Calamise, and I am originally from Springfield, Ohio. I've been in Columbus for over 30 years. 67, I'm a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother.
A certified community health worker connects the disconnected.
You're supposed to do that first colonoscopy around 50. I didn't do my colonoscopy. I think I was 62 years old. Once I was diagnosed, I realized I need to get my team together.
So we're in place to be a support base for the medical system, for social workers, for other programs, to make sure that the people that need extra support, that we're there to give them extra support.
If we only address the medical needs, that's about 20% of what a person needs. The other 80% is everything else: housing, food, childcare, transportation. And those are the things that are important to help to keep people healthy.
The community health worker could help me with some things that my family couldn't help me with.
And so the journey of helping her through has been emotional support, doctor's visits, advice when she needed advice, and making sure that she makes her doctor's appointment.
What do I think of Dolores? Oh, I love Dolores. Yeah, I love Dolores. She's a good person. And I think she has a sincere want to be in the community.
I believe the university and the College of Nursing saw that this was a gap in the care of our patients and decided to, do a community-based program where we're bringing in community members to learn these skills so that they can go out and help their communities.
The best thing about the Legendary Playground is that people get to see how my little boy and my daughter are changing the world. They are making people see that whether you have a disability or not, you are worthy, you deserve every opportunity as everyone else, and that you are loved and you belong.
Amanda reached out to me in July of 24, explained the need for an inclusive sensory playground.
It's just a safe space. It's a space that allows kids of all abilities to play with one another, explore, develop friendships.
Everything is ADA compliant.
They didn't realize that it was driven for a specific sensory or stimming need. They just looked at it as a fun place to play.
It's just so special. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard for a kid with a disability to play.
This is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life, in my whole career.
Investing in our future, that's where it happens. And OSU and the county board, they made that happen along with a lot of other contributors and community members.
I would like to thank everyone involved in the two great partnerships we got a brief glimpse of today. Just a fantastic example of the impact Ohio State can have when we are partnered with community. Thank you. Thank you. With that, I would like to welcome you to the 2026 James F. Patterson Land-Grant Lecture featuring President Richard Linton from Kansas State University. We have a lot to celebrate this year in Ohio State's outreach and engagement community. We are wrapping up the first year of our Engaged Scholars Academy, a cohort of 16 faculty members interested in learning and doing more around community engaged scholarship. It has been a wonderful group to engage with throughout the year. We also recently named our 2026 University Outreach and Engagement Award recipients and Programs of Excellence in Engaged Scholarship. Programs of Excellence was a new designation that we created just 3 years ago. And in the past 3 years, we have identified and certified over 70 programs as being programs that live up to the expectations of high-impact engaged scholarship. We also reinstituted an Outreach and Engagement Advisory Council with representatives from our colleges and units. The members of this group have been leaders in helping shape the direction of outreach and engagement at Ohio State across our many colleges. Finally, you will see posters over here featuring some of our tremendous community engaged graduate students as well as some of our programs of excellence. Please take a look after the lecture and explore some of the great work that they're doing. Would anyone who is involved with any of the initiatives that I mentioned, one of our recent award winners or past award winners, members of our advisory council, members of our Engaged Scholar Academy, would you please stand just for a moment to be recognized? Thank you. With that, I would like to introduce our new interim vice president and provost, Trevor Brown, who's been a champion of community engaged scholarship throughout his career. Although he is new to this role, Trevor is very familiar to all of us at Ohio State, having served as the longtime dean of the John Glenn College of Public Affairs, where he has been a faculty member since 2001. As our chief academic officer, he now oversees the institution's academic enterprise, which includes 15 colleges, 4 regional campuses, and more than 8,600 faculty who serve nearly 67,000 students. He also leads the Office of Academic Affairs, which drives Ohio State's academic excellence and supports the students, faculty, and communities the university serves. Please welcome Trevor Brown.
That sounds like a bigger job than the one I was told I was going to be taking on. So welcome, everybody. Thank you, Jason. It is a privilege to stand here and join in the welcoming for all of you. As you heard, I've just stepped into the role of interim provost. One of the great privileges of serving as provost is I have come to this event many times and in fact was on the stage last year. But the greatest privilege is getting to sit at the table with Jim and Nancy Patterson, who are the sponsors of this. Please join me in really thanking them for their commitment to University Land-Grant Mission. So I originally grew up, I'll just give you a little bit of background and it'll lead into the theme for today. I grew up in Bloomington, Indiana, which is home to Indiana University, which, as you all know, is the nation's premier football powerhouse. It's too soon? I think I've got about one more of the, I've told that joke at least once, maybe one more time, and then I'll be done with that. But I grew up in Bloomington, which is home to this marvelous university. My parents were both part of the university, so as a kid, I just came to know what a comprehensive Big Ten public institution was. It had all these amazing programs. It did all of these amazing things to help students on their path, and there were great scholars. So when I came here to Ohio State, I thought, well, this will be just like that. It's the same color. I mean, I know it's a little different, but it's sort of the same. And then quickly I realized how much, and this is not to denigrate my home institution since that's where I received my PhD, but this place is, first off, we all know, so much bigger. It is massive in its scale, but it is also massive in its scope. There were parts of this university that were not present at Indiana University. Engineering is split in Indiana between Purdue has engineering, Indiana University does not, and all of those things that had been split there are present here. So there was obviously the awareness of this tremendous scope. And I thought, oh, okay, well, that is a key attribute. And for the work I did, you heard I served as Dean of the Glenn College, and I came here 25 years ago as a faculty member. What appealed to me was, oh, it's a Big Ten public university, and state government is not an hour away up in Indianapolis. It's right here in our backyard, and that was very much appealing to me. But then I realized how much more we had in terms of reach here, and it goes back to the land-grant mission that is with the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences as the cornerstone of that commitment through the Morrill Act. And that includes our regional campuses and fundamentally our presence in all 88 counties through extension. So that was eye-opening to me too. It's like, oh wow, there's just so many more ways to connect the work that we do, as you saw in these two videos, to the communities that we ultimately serve. So part of it was just a recognition of, oh, this place is different and it's got more. And then I realized, no, it is something more fundamental. There is a qualitative difference between publics and land grants. That became apparent to me, not perhaps when I walked in the door, but over the years of service as I spent lots of time working with faculty members, with staff members, with students, with alumni, who truly had a passion to serve their communities, who wanted to take the knowledge that we create here and not simply share it with the world, but put it into action in service to the communities that are our neighbors. And that became one of the reasons, not just that I was able to thrive and flourish here, but that so many other people that are part of this institution thrive and flourish here as well. So that is something that I think is a true hallmark of this institution and the thing that we celebrate today. Now, as we're going to hear, we always have a lot to learn, and it's a pleasure that we'll be hearing from somebody of another land grant who can tell us the experiences they've had in ways that we could get better. But one of my other privileges, and the primary reason I'm up here, is to introduce our now new president. And many of you now know the biography, and I won't go over that for the 18th president, Ravi Bellanconda. But what I will share in light of the theme of today, you know, when a thing like this happens, you make a transition in leadership, normally there's a lot of prep time. We didn't have a lot of that. We went quick. And I would encourage you to go back and listen to the president's remarks upon accepting his appointment here. We didn't have a lot of time. He didn't have a lot of time to prepare for that moment. And so what you heard was authentic in that it was top of brain and deep in heart. And one of the things that struck me early in his remarks was he said all the things about this is an amazing academic powerhouse. This is an amazing place to conduct research. This is an amazing place to promote teaching and learning. But more fundamentally, it's a place to produce self-governing, autonomous citizens who will participate in the world. And that is a theme that I think runs throughout the work that we do, but I also think it is core to who he is. He is a genuine human who is interested in all of us thriving and thriving in service to something much bigger than just our own personal advancement. It is to be a citizen of the world, to be in our communities and helping to shape them. So please join me in welcoming the 18th president, President Ravi Bellanconda.
Thank you, Trevor. It's just wonderful. Thank you for stepping up on short notice and serving this great institution. Lolita and I are delighted to be here. Ohio State is a very special place. Every day I learn things that make it even more special in my heart. But we wouldn't be the place we were but for the work of many people. Many people represented here, the community that we have, but also many trustees who give generously of their time, take responsibility. So I'd like to start by acknowledging many former trustees of Ohio State whose work makes today possible. So I want to acknowledge you in the room. Thank you for all that you've done. for Ohio State. We have many current trustees as well. Want to welcome you along with this wonderful community. Trustee Bigby, Trustee Harsh, Trustee Caston, Trustee Kiggin, Trustee Skestos, thank you for being here. We have many cabinet members in the room. Thank you for the work that you do. Many of our academic deans are here. Appreciate you being here as well. Truly, it's a special day. But most of all, I want to thank Jim and Nancy Patterson for making this possible. In your generosity, in your service to Ohio State, this particular event, I remember being here last year, it's an extraordinary gift for us to take this opportunity to think about a core tenet of Ohio State's identity, which is our land grant mission and our land grant status, which we're very proud of and own every day. This is the 250th year of our nation's founding, and this country, I'm an immigrant to this country, I've lived here since '89, many, many years, has given many extraordinary gifts to the world in its ideals, in its commitment to democracy, the Constitution. But one of the most bold, innovative, to this day gifts is the notion of the land-grant university. You know, education started off as knowledge being controlled by an elite few. And the land-grant idea turns that on its head and asks, what would the world look like if we made knowledge accessible to the common person? And it's a revolutionary idea, and it lives on today through institutions like Ohio State and K-State that we'll hear about in a short while. And why is it important and why is it revolutionary? Because education is so important in multiple dimensions, in my personal opinion. On the first glance, we think of the economy and the impact it has to produce people who have skills necessary to thrive in the world, right? And there's all sorts of data we all know that if you have a 4-year degree versus not, there's big differences in earnings over a lifetime and in the beginning. So there's all of those things, and how I can't think of a single region in the world that thrives without a university helping set the tone and the beat for that thriving, right? So education plays a key role in economy. And as Trevor mentioned, education also plays a key role in what it means to be a citizen, what it means to be part of a democracy, what it means to take the agency with informed citizens shaping and actively writing the chapters of our country. It is a critical part of a thriving democracy that we have a well-informed citizenry. There's another dimension to education that's very special, which makes land-grant universities extraordinary, which is that ultimately as human beings, the definition of civilization is to, as individuals, have the space to learn, to grow, and to find meaning in our lives. And education is a critical way to enhance the probability that that happens. And so to me, when land-grant universities make excellence accessible, there's a special thing that happens beyond the ROI of what they do to our economies. And hence, I am so proud that Ohio State is always considered at the top of the list when you think about land-grant and flagship universities in the country. We all, as a part of the Ohio State community, and I'll include our speaker today, are proud and should be proud to be part of this family. But as great as we are, 155 years or so in the making, and still interpreting actively what it means to be a great land-grant university, we were not the first land-grant university. That distinction belongs to Kansas State. September 2nd, 1863, a little over a year after the Morrill Act was passed, K-State was founded and now has grown to be a research powerhouse with about 21,000 students, $878 million in research. And since 2022, it has had a special sort of jolt in its energy status with Dr. Rich Linton taking on as president. And I had a chance to spend some time with him, and we're in for a treat with his remarks. I would like to welcome you back, sir, back home because you spent a couple of years here in our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, in the Department of Food Science and Technology. And before that, he was dean. Before being president, he was dean at NC State in North Carolina, where we overlapped a little bit when I was there. And he was a faculty member at Purdue for 17 years. What President Linton has accomplished at K-State is quite extraordinary. In 3 short years after starting, they were under an enrollment decline. He's reversed that. He has an exciting plan called Next Gen K-State, which is a strategic plan that is informing K-State's growth. And indeed, the idea of next gen is an interesting thing. It is a promise to the next generation, and we have a particular responsibility, and I'm excited to see and hear more about what President Linton has to say. So we're delighted to have you here, deliver our 2026 lecture. Welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please join me in welcoming President Linton.
Well, good afternoon. I had a chance to, on the way over here, I had a driver from the hotel. Her name was Hannah, and as we were driving in the taxi, driving over here, Hannah told me this incredible dream that she has, that she's able to get because of her experience here at Ohio State. She wants to own and create a new hotel in Chicago, and then she asked me what I did, and I told her what I did, and then she asked me to tell me about my journey, and of course I told her I was at Purdue and Ohio State and NC State and K-State and Virginia Tech as a student. And she looked at me kind of like, you have a hard time keeping a job, don't you? And we continued on, and then she said, of all these places that you've been, all land-grant universities, tell me something special about each one. So I did that. And then I talked about the Ohio State University and what was special about my time here. The energy here is unmatched. In any other place in the country that I've been, appreciate that, be passionate about it, and don't ever underestimate the energy here at Ohio State University. Jim and Nancy Patterson, thank you for bringing me back to a place that my family and I greatly enjoyed working and living. You can't imagine how honored that I am today to discuss a mission that after more than 40 years working within the land-grant system, it's a huge part of who I am. So I put a title to this presentation, Land-Grant 3.0, rooted in communities, powered by science, and measured by outcomes. And I want to start this with a conviction that may be uncomfortable for all of us. The land-grant promise is not outdated, but the model that we use to deliver it is. You see, the land-grant idea was born in 1862, and it was one of the most important commitments ever made in higher education. It came at a defining moment in our nation's history. And as the United States approaches its 250th anniversary of its founding, it's worth remembering that the Morrill Act reflected the powerful belief at the center of the American ideal, that opportunity, knowledge, and progress should be available and accessible to all. For more than 160 years, land-grant universities have carried that idea forward, opening access to education and applying research to improve the public good. But connecting universities to the systems that sustain life and societal growth, like food and health and technology and communities, these have all helped to strengthen economies and democracy. That idea is still very relevant today, but we must think differently about how we can achieve it, because our world has changed dramatically. The challenges are different, and they are coming at us faster than ever before. We've all seen pandemics, climate shifts, artificial intelligence, and more completely transform our world. Changes are happening at a pace faster than ever before, and the systems that we rely to address these challenges are still moving on timelines and technology from a completely different era. So the question is not whether the land-grant mission still matters, because we all know that it does. Instead, there's two questions that we should be asking. Are we organized to deliver on a mission at a pace and scale required to meet the demands of today and tomorrow? And if the values are timeless, is it the way we operate that needs to evolve? I'm pretty sure that we've thought about this in some way, but have we really made a decision to act on it? You've heard from leaders that say, people just don't know how important we are, or we need to tell our story better. When in truth, we need to be better. We need to listen and engage. We need to respond to what individuals need, and not simply the ones that sit on our campuses to earn the degree. We need to make connections far beyond our campuses with people that are not our traditional constituents. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, what I'll call Land Grant 3.0, a next generation land grant defined by trust, speed, partnerships, and shared growth. A land grant system rooted in communities, powered by science, and measured by real-world outcomes that matter. This is the vision that we are turning into reality at Kansas State University through what we call Next Gen K-State. I've experienced the land grant system as an undergraduate and graduate student, a faculty member, a center director, a department head here at Ohio State, a dean, and now as a president. And for over 40 years, I've seen this model change lives and strengthen communities, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of it. For me, it started in a classroom at Virginia Tech, almost by accident, when I met a faculty member whose passion for teaching and discovery was contagious. I signed up for his classes. I did undergraduate research in his lab, and then he mentored me through both of my graduate degrees. He inspired me, and he encouraged me to become involved in higher education and be a faculty member. And this changed the course of my life, which, when looking back, it's not surprising. That's exactly what land grants are supposed to do. They're supposed to grow the next generation of leaders. I've also seen the power of applied research, work that doesn't stay in scientific journals, but shows up in better processes, more efficient systems, and healthier communities. And I've seen what happens when university builds strategic relationships. Partnerships are established, trust grows, and progress accelerates. So I'm convinced of this. Land Grant 3.0 isn't about abandoning what made this system great. It's about aligning our structures and our incentives and partnerships with the impact that we've always said that we're committed to creating. So if Land Grant 1.0 was about access to practical education, and Land Grant 2.0 expanded the research enterprise, then Land Grant 3.0 needs to be about translation and engagement at speed. So here's the dilemma. Our best science often moves carefully, as it should. But communities experience disruption quickly. Farmers and ranchers experience market shocks quickly. And families experience uncertainty quickly. When events like a foodborne outbreak, an animal disease, water crises, or a cybersecurity incident occur, the public is not focused on the structure of our institutions. Rather, they're focused on whether the expertise of universities can help provide clarity and solutions, and they need answers fast. That's why the next generation land grant must think intentionally about how we organize ourselves to be ready and respond. It means creating systems that enable rapid and coordinated action. It means encouraging collaboration across disciplines rather than working in isolation. And it means engaging communities as partners in the discovery and the implementation process. You see, our mission is important, but acting on it, now that's the real promise. And if our operating model can't move quickly enough, then we don't only lose relevance, we lose trust, and we lose confidence. We tend to think of our infrastructure as very tangible things like roads and bridges and broadband and laboratories. But isn't trust the critical infrastructure we should be talking about and seeking? The land-grant model was built on a very simple social contract: public investment in exchange for public benefit. And for generations, that relationship allowed universities to serve as trusted sources of knowledge, education, innovation, and problem solving. Today, however, confidence in institutions is strained, sometimes deserved, sometimes fueled by misinformation, and often intensified by distance between the work that we do and the real connection with everyday life. And when that distance grows, universities can begin to feel removed from their communities that we are meant to serve. And that leads to an important reality. A university can be excellent, but still not believed. And when a public serving institution is not believed, its ability to serve collapses. The trust infrastructure fades away, and all of a sudden we're not relevant. For the next generation land grant, that means trust must be visible not only in what we say, but in how we operate. This means we need to listen to our communities and respond to them. We need to be transparent with what we do, and we need to communicate effectively, and where possible, report metrics to be able to show our impact and our value. Let me be blunt. Trust doesn't come from telling people that we matter. It comes from operating in a way that proves that we do matter over and over again. Now I want to step back just a little bit to present a broader view of higher education, widening the lens beyond land-grant institutions. We often talk about declining public trust in higher education as if we were primarily a communications challenge. But I believe the issue may run much deeper than that. In many ways, the trust gap that we discuss may also reflect a gap in how our institutions operate and how the public experiences the outcomes of our work. For most people, universities are not experienced through mission statements or strategic plans. The public experiences us through outcomes, asking questions like, can we even get into your university? Can we afford it? Will I get a job, a good job that sustains a career and a fulfilling life? Does the university effectively serve our communities? Does the university have positive value and impact on the state's economy? When crises hits, does the university show up before, during, and after? And if these questions and these answers feel unclear or inconsistent, trust erodes, even when the work inside the institution is strong. As we approach the 250th anniversary of the United States, it is an appropriate moment to reflect on one of the most forward-looking investments this nation has ever made in our future. And it also invites us to consider a very simple question. If the Morrill Act were written today, what would it require of us? Not just on purpose, but in performance. And I suspect the act would call for at least three things. The first is speed with rigor. Universities must be able to respond to emerging challenges quickly while maintaining the credibility and integrity that defines our academic work. Second is relevance with independence. Land-grant universities must remain closely connected to the needs of our communities that we serve, and independent enough to tell the truth, even when the truth is hard, and maybe what people don't want to hear. And third is a measurable public benefit. Outcomes must be visible beyond metrics, charts, and graphics. They should be seen in real life, experienced and felt, and make a difference for all the communities that we serve. This is not meant to be a critique of higher education. It's a call to modernize the model so that the mission remains credible and durable for generations to come. Land-grant universities sit in the center of systems that can't afford to fail, like food and water and health and energy and security. And at the same time, the challenges affecting these systems rarely occur in siloed isolation. Moreover, they're interconnected. In this context, resilience requires balancing several important priorities all at once. It requires protecting safety while protecting harm where possible. It requires maintaining security by ensuring continuity and stability during that disruption. And it requires sustaining the long-term capacity of our natural resources, workforce, and communities. And whenever any one of these elements weakens, the strength of the entire system is jeopardized. Which means that Land Grant 3.0 can't be a collection of departments and colleges. It needs to function as a system. We need stronger collaborations across agriculture and engineering and veterinary medicine, human and animal health, data science, business and engagement, so regions can build resilient economies that protect people and sustain prosperity. We must challenge ourselves and ask the question, are we structured to solve problems that do not naturally align with traditional disciplinary boundaries? Now let's talk about technology and how it can shape higher education and the bioeconomy, areas as land grants that we have a big opportunity to lead. Advances in artificial intelligence and sensor networks and genomics, automation and digital systems are accelerating how quickly knowledge can move from discovery to decision to action. But if we want to rebuild trust, we cannot chase innovation, because by definition, then, we are behind. Instead, we must lead with innovation guided by purpose, ensuring innovation is developed with the responsibility to use it and apply it. It also means working alongside communities and industries so that we can design solutions collaboratively. At K-State, we would say it this way: we imagine boldly, but we build responsibly. We pursue progress with integrity because the public good is not a slogan. It's a promise at the center of our mission. Even the best technology fails without people prepared to use it well. While we build better technology, we also need to build people up for the better. Land grants have always been engines of upward mobility, providing education as a bridge to opportunity. But today's learners are different, and they include not only traditional students, but mid-career workers, rural learners balancing jobs and families, veterans, career changers, and employers who need skills at scale now. So Land Grant 3.0, we need to expand access through certificate programs and stackable credentials, learn while working pathways, experiential learning with industry and community partners, and extension-infused training that meets people where they are. You see, when education leads to greater stability for families, when graduates contribute to the vitality of their communities, and when employers see their growth of skilled and capable workforces, the value of higher education becomes visible in everyday life. In these moments, trust is strengthened, not through messaging, but through real lived experiences. None of this work happens alone. In Land Grant 3.0, partnership is the strategy, because the problems we're solving, like food safety and rural health, energy production, climate resiliency, biosecurity, and workforce pipelines, these things cannot be solved by any one institution. So the Next Generation Land Grant becomes a platform for multi-state consortia, private-public partnerships, shared data systems with clear governance, cooperative extension partnerships across boundaries, and progress that moves at a pace of industry while preserving independence. Universities can do something that few others cannot. We can convene competitors, regulators, and communities around shared outcomes because we're built at our best for the public good. Land grants are rooted in place, and that's exactly what makes them globally valuable. because foodborne pathogens, they don't respect borders, supply chains don't stop at state lines, and climate risk doesn't stay local. Solutions that work for real communities tested under real constraints are the ones that can scale. So Land-Grant 3.0 is locally accountable and then also globally connected, sharing models, data, and best practices across the world while staying grounded for our community impacts. For us at K-State, we say our impact reaches from the prairie to the world. And that's not just a fun slogan, it's our strategy. We need to build stronger regions to build a stronger world. So let me close with this. The land-grant promise changed this nation because it was bold enough to match mission with structure. So if Land-Grant 3.0 is defined by speed and trust and shared growth, then our path forward is clear. We must continue working to move knowledge into practice more quickly while maintaining the rigor and credibility that defines the Academy. We must strengthen trust through transparency and relevance and outcomes that communities can see and experience. And we must build systems, partnerships, workforce pathways, and meaningful ways of measuring impact that allow communities and institutions to grow together. Let's lead as land grants that don't just predict the future. Let's lead as those who empower it, rooted in our communities, guided by science, measured by impact, and committed always to the growth that serves our people. Thank you, and OH. Thank you. Feels good to be on the stage at Ohio State.
Well, thank you for a wonderful and inspiring talk, President Linton.
Thank you.
You've given us a lot to think about with our own institution and the model of the land grant going forward. You touched upon Next Gen K-State as your initiative to be a modern land grant. How have you operationalized that? What are some examples of how you've approached that at your institution?
We approached it through a strategy, through a strategic plan, the Next Gen strategic plan that I had mentioned. And the first step was to really engage with all 105 counties and communities. So we took that effort, we connected with people in all counties and communities and spent 90% of the time listening and 10% of the time talking to understand what the expectations were in a land grant institution and moving forward. And then we reached back to be able to really build a land grant university from scratch, still realizing the importance of research, the missions of research, teaching, outreach, and engagement that serves all 105 counties and communities. So if we look at our research has changed and the dynamics are much more focused towards application and technology and working in private-public partnerships and understand how we can enhance the benefits of the research that benefits the state, then the nation, then the world. From an academic standpoint, we've worked on how we can best recruit, retain, and successfully graduate and place in jobs our students, and to enhance the student experience so we can use that as the biggest selling point for the institution. And when it comes to engagement, we learned through this process of visiting all 105 counties and communities that the incredible work that we do through cooperative extension throughout our state is meaningful, but it's not enough. We learned that some of the more important issues today are things like community health, rural health, housing, childcare, things that are incredibly important to communities that our cooperative extension system needed to grow in order to be successful. So the idea was to kind of rethink and relearn the research, the academic, and the engagement mission and modernize it to today and tomorrow's needs.
Thank you. It was moving to hear your personal experience, decades of not only being at a land grant as a student, but then as an emerging scholar, an administrator, and now president. What are some of the more meaningful community experiences and collaborations that you've had at your time at these various institutions?
Yeah, so I feel old now that I've been doing this for 42 years. So I think I've got great experience with communities for my entire career. I was hired at Purdue University with a heavy extension appointment and spent a lot of my time working with communities, working with cooperative extension, in my case, food safety educational programs, and you could see incredible differences that were being made every single day. I think at North Carolina State University, one of the biggest community impacts was an initiative called the North Carolina Plant Sciences Initiative. This was an initiative that was driven by the interest of communities to be the best place in the world to be able to do plant science research and education. And through partnerships with Extension, partnerships through industry, partnerships through commodity groups, we were able to create facilities. We were able to hire leaders and faculty to place at North Carolina State to be the best in the world associated with plant sciences. At K-State, I think I mentioned the connection with communities was a major driver in how we created the Next Gen strategic plan. It informed our academic programs. It informed our research, our applied research specifically, and the new work that we did to be able to enhance community impacts.
And what advice would you give students and particularly our new faculty who want to be scholars who are engaged with community? What would you advise them based on your experience?
You got to get in a car and you got to drive to them. You've got to listen to people in communities. You've got to be open to new partnerships and new ideas, and you need to do it in their backyard. If you do it in their backyard, they're much more welcoming, they're much more open, they're much more transparent, and they're much more willing to be able to build partnerships and be open to very different partnerships outside of the traditional partnerships that we think about with land-grant institutions. And I think that's the moving forward towards a next generation land-grant university.
And I'm curious, what are some examples of how partnership might look different going forward?
How a partnership might look different?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a great example. At Kansas State University, as we went throughout the state, we identified that rural health was a very important initiative, and we were not serving rural communities in the way in which we could. K-State's got the extension network. They've got relationships in all counties and all communities, and we have the ability to be able to educate, but we don't have the strong medical background that's required and needed. And so we partnered with KU, the University of Kansas. By that way, we've got the strong health background, we've got the relationships with communities, the connection with communities, and those that can effectively educate to be able to improve lives.
And a theme that you've raised in your remarks today really impressed upon the importance of urgency and speed with the way we work. And I'm curious how you've brought that to the culture at Kansas State.
It's a hard thing to do. I think you've got to be able to form interdisciplinary teams that get people energized about important work that needs to be done. You need to be able to engage with your stakeholders and engage with industry to be able to build a really strong relationship about the importance and about the speed of the work. Universities don't work nearly as fast as we should or we could, and I think as we think forward to the future, relationships with stakeholders and relationships with industry, we feel at Kansas State is probably going to be 3 times more important than what it is today. So you've got to actively involve a strategy to engage with industry, partner with industry, and then work through your strengths about things that can make a difference. One of the meaningful things that we did at K-State recently is we were finding that that relationship with industry was not perfected. They were confused about where to go, and they felt like this was not a true partnership about the work that could be done together. So we merged at K-State the Office of Research, the Office of Engagement, and the Foundation around important things like IP and commercialization and corporate relations and entrepreneurism and economic development, so that we can find a way to be able to partner and work together across the different elements of the institution to be able to make a broader and more important impact to communities and to industry.
Thank you. So it's great to hear you say Land Grant 3.0 cannot be a collection of departments and colleges. It needs to function as a system.
Yeah.
And we know, whether it's Ohio State or Kansas State, the community doesn't see us in the compartmentalized way that we often view ourselves, right, of departments and centers or colleges. They expect we're all on the same page. How have you tackled that at Kansas State?
It's a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of work. You've got to get people energized to be able to understand that their piece in this puzzle is meaningful and it's important and it's valued. And you've got to be able to make a connection to an opportunity. So I'll give you a great example at K-State. As we reached around the state, we understand that water resource management's a key and important issue. Water is a challenge in Kansas, and that's an incredibly important resource that we need to do everything that we can to be able to preserve it and use it in wise ways. It's the number one issue in the state. The governor identified that as the most important kind of societal need and research need. And so an effort was made at Kansas State where we brought almost all of our colleges together, 85 different faculty, to be able to respond to a request of the governor to be able to make a difference. And so we created a concept called the Kansas Water Institute. And I think none of the 85 faculty thought that there was ever a chance that we'd get state funding. And so as a backup plan, they decided that they'd work together for the first time and write their first grant. They did that. They ended up getting a $10+ million grant through USDA. And at the same time, the state really supported us and provided a $5 million recurring level of support to be able to help with facilities first, innovation and instrumentation second, and then we'll hire between 12 and 15 faculty across multiple colleges and departments to be able to get there. It's about bringing people together. It's about having them share what they're really good at. One of the approaches we used in North Carolina for plant sciences is we invited faculty from different colleges to come together. We matched it up with a little bit of wine and cheese. And we gave them 2.5 minutes in a lightning round. And 2.5 minutes, we gave them 2 slides to say everything that they do that's wonderful and fantastic. And as it turns out, people really like to do that. And the outcome of that effort, just as an example, was the largest grant in the history of our college and second largest ever at NC State with the Novo Nordisk Foundation. My point is, the work is long and the work is hard, but very simple changes can make enormous differences if you bring people together and you care about them and you help guide them and push them in a certain direction.
So in some ways, a culture shift in the way we work.
It's an enormous culture shift that's outside of the comfort box of where we are. But if you are to evolve in higher education, you got to get out of the box. You got to get out of the siloed box and do things differently. And Ohio State does that very, very well already.
Growth requires discomfort sometimes.
It does.
Absolutely. You raised a critical point that we are not dealing with challenges that stop at state borders.
Yeah.
And Kansas State and Ohio State, we are part of a global community of land-grant institutions. How do you feel we could be supporting each other in this work going forward and magnifying our impact?
Yeah, I think other land-grant institutions, other non-land-grant institutions need to be open to partnerships rather than competition. in the state of Kansas. Just in the last couple of years, I think Wichita State and the University of Kansas and some of our regional four-year institutions are all thinking and all partnering about not all doing the same thing and replicating it, but working together and identifying where our strengths and weaknesses are to be able to collaborate and to be able to work together. Right now, at K-State as an example, we're just getting kind of re-immersed in nuclear energy. We're one of the few Midwest land-grant universities that has a nuclear reactor on campus, and with all of the interest in that form of energy today, we've received some federal support for infrastructure and some state support for infrastructure and for interdisciplinary faculty. Now we need to define what is that work that's going to create the niche that identifies our strengths, but also how can we be thinking about other institutions that we can effectively partner with far outside of our state boundaries, in order to be successful. I'll give you another very small example. At North Carolina State, we grew apples in the western part of the state. And as it turns out, there's 4 other states right near us that also grew apples. You don't need 5 extension specialists for apples within a pretty small region. And so collectively, we work together as 5 land grants to be able to identify what are the 2 apple specialists that can provide service to all 5 of these states so that we can make other investments alone or in combination with other crops or other commodities. And I just think we need to be thinking about that more and more. There is so much more duplication than there is collaboration, and we need to be saying the opposite.
Absolutely. Well, it's been inspiring and motivating to hear your vision of Land Grant 3.0. Very excited by that concept. We are at our time today, but I wanted to give just another round of applause and appreciation for President Linton for sharing his insights with us today. So thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
So with that, we close the 2026 Patterson Land-Grant Lecture. I wish you all a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation.